Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished heads of state and government, Mr. Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. President of the General Assembly, representatives of all the peoples of the world, I bring you fraternal greetings from Europe. Europe, which is aware of its responsibilities and wishes to act. Europe, which is true to its values, to the ideals of democracy and freedom. Europe, which is loyal to its friends, but also Europe, which wishes to speak to all and to serve the cause of dialogue and peace. At a time when the world is deeply troubled, I have come to tell you on behalf of Europe that in the midst of so many difficulties, the international community has a political and moral responsibility which we must shoulder. Let us not forget the reason we are gathered here today is because following one of the most terrible tragedies humankind has ever known, there were men and women of goodwill who were determined to ensure that in the future no one in the world could ever say when faced with misfortune, there is nothing we can do. That is why we are here. Because those who went before did not renounce their responsibility. Europe believes that today our duty is to act and to reject merely enduring. We can wait no longer. We are beginning to gauge the tragic consequences of having already waited too long. We cannot wait to achieve peace, to put an end to the tragedy of Darfur. We cannot wait to combat terrorism. We cannot wait to avert the food crisis, which condemns so many human beings to die of hunger. We cannot wait to prepare the world for the post-oil world, to fight global warming, to save the oceans, to put an end to monetary, social and ecological dumping. We cannot wait to bring ethics to financial capitalism. For all too long, we have all been resigned to remain powerless. For all too long, we have retreated when faced with the need to give the globalized world the institutions that will regulate it. We can no longer govern today's world, the world of the 21st century, with the institutions of the 20th century. We are a century late. Let today's major powers, let the powers of tomorrow unite to shoulder together the responsibilities that their influence gives them in world affairs. I know that some of you are hesitant, but to those who hesitate, I wish to say that enlarging the Security Council, enlarging the G8, is not just a matter of fairness. It is also a matter of acting effectively. We can no longer wait to expand the Security Council. We can wait no longer to turn the G8 into the G14, to bring in China, to bring in India, to bring in South Africa, Mexico, Brazil. Italy is proposing a major step in this direction at the next summit, which it will be hosting, and Italy is right to do so. Let us see to it. Let us act so that our international institutions are more representative because if they are more representative, our institutions will be stronger, more effective, and more respected. A new world is emerging through all of the successes, but also through all of the crises that beset the planet. But we must not just endure this new world, we must build it. Let us learn to manage the most acute crises together, that no one, not even the most powerful of us, no one can resolve alone. I am convinced that it is the duty of heads of state and government of the countries most directly concerned to meet before the end of the year to examine together the lessons from the most serious financial crisis the world has experienced since that of the 1930s. Who could understand that the major economies would not take the time to meet, to discuss what we must do together? Lessons that we need to learn from what has occurred. Let us rebuild together a regulated capitalism in which whole swathes of financial activity are not left to the sole judgment of the market operators. Let us rebuild capitalism in which banks do their job. And the job of banks is to finance economic development. It is not to fuel speculation. Let us rebuild capitalism where the rules of caution apply to all and serve to avert and absorb shocks, crises, instead of exacerbating them. Let us rebuild capitalism in which the credit agencies are controlled and punished when necessary, in which transparency of transactions replaces opaqueness. And the opaqueness is such today where we even have difficulty in understanding what's going on, in which modes of remuneration do not drive people to take unreasonable risks. And I shoulder my responsibility in saying that those who place in jeopardy people's savings need to be punished. They need to face up to their responsibilities here. We can do this with one condition, that we all work together. In our globalized world, the fate of each is linked to the fate of all of the others. Next year in Copenhagen, negotiations started in Bali on climate change will conclude. Whatever our particular interests, we do not have the right to fail. Europe will, in December, adopt an unprecedented raft of measures on energy and on climate.